Welcome to episode 7 of the Small Talk podcast, the Smallegan Real Estate team. Here we're at Jordyn Dobberstein. He's one of our Muskegon agents, services all the way from Holland, Grand Haven, all the way up to Whitehall and anywhere in between. So thanks for talking with me today, Jordyn. We're going to start off by reading one of your reviews that you recently got. And don't worry, it's a good one. And I'd like to get your take on it and your response. Maybe, say something to the client that was nice enough to leave it for you. So Jordyn was a gift to have as my agent. I've had others that I've spoken with in the past that were pushy and didn't seem to have me in mind. He was very easy to reach and got answers promptly and stayed very flexible throughout the entire process, which is very helpful for a third shifter. He was able to sense when I was getting frustrated with the market and would throttle back or give inspiration to keep going. I highly recommend him to others. Pretty great review. I wish if I was going to ask somebody to write a review for me, I would probably include a lot of that, but that's a really good one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was a really rewarding transaction all the way around. It took a little while, and thank you, Jeremiah, for the high praise there. He was actually my first VA client, and so that in and of itself, with the challenging market, was difficult. Navigating that, but he was great, and it was one of those things where finally you just throw yourself into the work. Him and I spent a couple mornings even side by side doing the repairs together for the VA appraisal and stuff. I really got to know him and about his life, and it was just really good to be able to do everything I could to make it happen for him so that he could move on and get a room for his daughter and have her on a more regular basis. It was just really great to go full circle on that one with him.
That's awesome. That's why we do it, right? To improve people's lives and to build connections, right? This is a relationship business, so It's super important. And I'm glad you get the gist of why we're doing this. So I mentioned a few areas that you're currently servicing. What other areas would you say you work in or service?
Right now, getting a lot of Ludington, even a lot of Twin Lake requests. People are moving away from the city a little bit and kind of wanting to move a little farther north, find something on a lake, something with some woods, and just kind of get away from the hustle and bustle a little bit. So seeing a lot of that. Lake life, that's the goal.
Yeah. And you got so much of that out there. Michigan, not just Lake Michigan, but there's so many inland lakes that have, personally, if I was going to go to a beach, I probably wouldn't go to Lake Michigan. I would go to a smaller inland lake. We spent a lot of time at Moda Lake. I like Muskegon Lake.
Yeah. Wolf Lake's a good one too. There's like 3 or 4 different public access points there.
Yeah. So Wolf Lake, actually, that's a vacation rental. How's that market out there?
It's growing. The good thing is the municipalities have not quite caught up yet. So they're, in the city of Muskegon, they're demanding their pound of flesh. There's like a 6-week wait time on short-term vacation rental inspections there. But the outside municipalities, the township, out north and closer east, they have not caught up yet. So you can still get a pretty decent price house and make it a short-term rental without having to go through too much red tape right now.
So I know you hear a lot, working with a team about the Grand Rapids market. How's it out in Muskegon? How does that area compare to the Grand Rapids market?
Obviously, the price of a home is a little bit cheaper in Muskegon. The demographics are a little different. The sense of urgency is a little less. We see a lot of people, the negotiations are a little less tense. There's a lot more emotion, people getting cold feet more so than letting money guide their decisions. I've talked to a couple agents this week, actually, other agents in Muskegon who had buyers back out simply and just were admitted, they got cold feet.
Just cold feet.
Yeah, big decision, freaked out. I actually lost a situation last week with some cash buyers where they came in and they offered just a tad low. It was a good offer, and we wrote it. And there was the listing agent let me know, hey, we actually had some over asking price buyers come back And we decided to re-engage with them since they were already through appraisal and everything else.
Yeah.
They just got cold feet. 2 weeks later, they apologized and got the house back.
Wow.
I was like, okay, well,
I mean, it's an emotional decision, right? I mean, that's the biggest decision a lot of people make as far as financial. And then, moving, that's a huge decision to make. And I could see somebody getting cold feet over that. So
for sure.
So, are you seeing a lot of like vacation rental purchases out that way, or people looking for investment properties? Like, what's that like over there?
Yeah, there's, people know there's money to be made, especially since COVID. We've seen a big influx of, people doing the short-term rental thing as close as they can to the water. To my surprise, I actually had people inquire for investment properties to use as short-term rentals that were not by the water. And that kind of took me by surprise a little bit. Out in the township with a couple acres, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to make a 4-wheel track and, put electrical out there for campers, and they can go to, they're still 6 miles from the lake if they want to be, but they basically made this house into a campground, and they did pretty well. So
interesting.
Yeah.
No shortage of ideas and inspiration. How would somebody get started in short-term rentals?
I'd say the biggest thing, because I've noticed every person that I've known, whether they were my client or someone else's client that bought one, struggled afterwards to find a good property management company.
Okay.
I would say the best thing to do is probably get that handled before you start buying properties.
Have some interviews.
Yeah, because I've had some people not happy with their experience, and some people that just couldn't find, especially in those spots where you scored, you got a house in Twin Lake or Ludington where it's not regulated and you were able to get going quickly, but who's going to go all the way up to Ludington and manage that property for you?
Sure. Yeah. And get it cleaned and check on it and be the person that you're going to, talk to if you have issues, if you're a guest.
Yeah.
There's lots to kind of uncover when you're, get into the short-term rental market. So I know that the rules are different, municipality by municipality. Are you familiar with all the rules for short-term renting or?
So there's in Muskegon, as a county, there aren't necessarily specified rules unless you're in city limits. In city limits, especially the historic district, you're seeing a lot of that. People are buying up your old Victorian houses in the historic district and trying to make them short-term rentals. There's a lot of rules there. You have to maintain the historic property the way that they want it maintained. That means you can't just slap vinyl siding on it. I had a client who she had 3/4 of the house wrapped in vinyl siding, and then they came and told her she had to take it down and scrape and paint the wood instead.
Yep.
It cost her almost $20,000, and she was not happy about it.
You got to make sure you get permits before you start working like that.
Yeah, she was one of those, she had my brother does all my work. We're going to get started right away. And they put a stop to that very quickly.
Okay.
And as you move further out, it's just a quick, for safety. They're looking for, are your guests secure? Do windows and doors lock? Do the electrical and heat systems work properly? Just your basics. And as long as you're giving them a safe property to pass the night, then you're pretty much good to go.
Sure. So what areas would you say are best for investing in the Lakeshore area?
I think a little bit further north. I like to say north of the river, because as you have to cross the river to go into North Muskegon.
Yep.
So north of the river, you're North Muskegon, Ludington, Twin Lake, even Holton. There are a lot of untapped areas up that way where you have miles and miles of, even in the wintertime, snowmobile tracks and luge tracks. There's all kinds of stuff to do even in the off season up there. And because there's less competition in the market for people to live there, you can pick something up at a pretty reasonable price.
Okay. What advice would you give somebody when they're buying a house?
Definitely to do your due diligence. It's a lot better to make a decision early if something isn't going to work out than to try to talk yourself into it along the way, just
for sure,
end up ultimately backing out too late.
Yeah. Inspections and all that, for sure. What about selling? What would you tell somebody when they're thinking about selling their house?
I would tell them to find a good agent that knows the area and to trust them. What we do, and you taught me pricing a house is extremely important, doing it the right way.
Yeah. Especially with a shift.
Yeah. When the market shift, especially, a lot of people now, they read all this stuff on the internet from 2 months ago and they call you in to list their house and they're like, whoa. my friend told me that they sold their house for 20 grand over asking in 3 days, you know, and you need to be able to tell them, and they need to trust you that that's not the market we're in anymore. And, you know, they can't just expect that now.
Yeah. With interest rates, you know, double what they were a few short months ago. I mean, back at the beginning of the year, they were closer to 3 and now they're almost to 7. So that's crazy. So what brought you to the lakeshore? Like, why did you choose to live in Muskegon area? You grew up there? Yeah.
I was born in Muskegon, went to school, you know, in Muskegon, left for college, went to Midland for college. And honestly, it was the water. When I went to college and played some football, and I really didn't like it. I was like, okay, where's the lake?
Yeah.
The beach, you know, they had this lake, inland lake over there that was super tiny. And they're like, hey, we're going to the beach today. And I went one day and I was like, this is not a lake.
We got pools like that over here.
I was like, this is a puddle, you know? Yeah. So as soon as I could, you know, I took a job at a bank back home and I tailed it back, and I just, you know, told myself, even if I buy properties in other areas of the country, you know, at some point in my life, which is something I'd like to do, I'm always going to have a place.
Yeah. Yeah. So, besides going to the beach, what are some other fun things to do in the Muskegon area?
There's a lot to do outdoors. If you go a little bit north, there's some good apple orchards and farms and stuff this time of year. You can do corn mazes. There's, you know, a few haunted houses. We were hoping there was going to be a casino. That didn't end up materializing, but, you know, hopefully we'll get that figured out. You know, there's a lot of sports teams. We have a semi-pro football team that does pretty well. So, you know, between hockey and football and, you know, a lot of concerts. They do, you know, we have the Irish Festival, the Polish Festival, all kinds of stuff going on downtown all year round too. So
yeah. Have you been to the Winter Park out in Muskegon? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, we actually had our family pictures taken out there. It was one of those situations where we were trying to get in and get out quickly, and then, you know, once my kids noticed all that, they were like, all right, we have to come back and experience it.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
What do they do there in the summer? Is there anything going on?
You can actually horseback ride the trails out there in the summer, which is really cool. We hiked them and got separated once, and that was pretty nuts. They're huge. They go probably 2 or 3, some of them 4 miles from the road to the lake. They all spit you out at the lake. They know where the money shot is. Everything in Muskegon, you end up at the lake.
Okay. How far is it to Muskegon from Grand Rapids, or how far away is Muskegon from Grand Rapids?
It's about 40 minutes.
Okay.
Give or take, as long as traffic's, you know, moving pretty quickly. So it's pretty good, you know, place to live. Even if you work in Grand Rapids, you're looking at less than an hour commute, you know?
Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of people just commuting to Muskegon from Grand Rapids for or back and forth? Or are you seeing people from this area maybe move out to Muskegon?
I'm seeing a lot of people from Grand Rapids move to Muskegon. A lot of teammates will call me and say, hey, you know, I have a guy wanting to, you know, buy on the lake shore, doesn't want to be in Grand Rapids, but they work in Grand Rapids. They're from Grand Rapids. And I've set up a few searches lately that surprised me. That were like, you know, anywhere from they make a triangle, you know, from Muskegon to Holland to Grand Rapids. Inside of that triangle,
really,
people are really happy. Yeah.
Okay. I've seen a lot of that too. Now that you can work from home, I think it's opened up a lot of possibilities for where people live, and they're making decisions based on what they can do there versus where their job is or where their school is, because there's so many options now, you know, for school and for working from home. So
yeah,
I think that has something to do with it. But any advice for somebody moving from Grand Rapids to Muskegon, like places to like learn more about Muskegon, or how would they know which neighborhoods they should check out? Like, who should they talk to?
I think talking to locals is always the best way, because, you know, the media sensationalizes, you know, a lot of stuff. There's a lot of parts of Muskegon that may get a bad rap. And, you know, there's pockets in every neighborhood. And, you know, obviously we are, me especially, I love Muskegon. I mean, I grew up wanting it to see it succeed, and they're putting a lot of money into Muskegon. And there are a lot of areas that people overlook that are very quiet, very nice. And even financially, you know, there are neighborhoods that aren't necessarily near the lake, so they're not considered prime real estate, but the schools are great and the taxes are very, very affordable.
Yeah, it's there's lots of great reasons to move to Lakeshore, and you've named a bunch of them. And we have office space out there too, right? And what do you think of that? So we're in the GVSU Innovation Hub. We've been there for almost a year, right? How's that going?
It's great. It's a nice collaborative space. I like that it's open, so when I'm there, I can talk to Raven, I can talk to Rachel, and when Devin comes out, we can get a lot done. They take really good care of us. There's a snack bar, a full kitchenette. There's always, you actually can meet clients in there because they're constantly having seminars. One weekend they had teachers going through there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And so, and they're curious about who else is in the building. So, you run into a teacher and what do you do? Oh, I'm in real estate. Or, and they ask for advice. I actually ran into an old friend and, got a couple conversations going from teachers, asking for advice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's actually a lot of cool learning opportunities there. They do, 401k classes, planning for retirement seminars and stuff, which we all get the information for free, because we're there.
Yep.
There's a studio for us to do videos and podcasts if we wish, or, a quiet space to make calls. It's pretty cool. Pretty collaborative space.
Yeah. Every time I've been out there, I've been impressed with, the action and the movement in that office. So, what are some things you do outside of real estate?
I'm big into sports. I'm also a big family man. My wife and my kids keep me busy for sure. So pretty much just trying to keep up is, but I like to play guitar a little bit. And I also freelance write is something I do to relax.
Okay.
So that's kind of fun.
Like what kind of writing?
Just creative. Sometimes I have a buddy who has a music project and sometimes I'll write, lyrics for him or something. And, short stories, stuff like that. My kids like to get me going, telling stories and stuff. And so sometimes I'll write up a little something and just, read it to them.
So you mentioned family or family man. Tell us what your family looks like. I know Laura.
Yeah, Laura, my wife, she's 28. We actually met at work. My dad was her boss and he had to fire her. So that's always a funny, like our beginning story. Yeah, we started dating and he had to fire her. And I don't know, we made it through that. So, it hasn't been too difficult since.
Are her and your dad cool now?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It was, he likes to joke that he's the only person that he ever really regrets firing or that he was upset he had to fire. And, and now, they joke about it all the time. And, we have a daughter, 8-year-old Esperanza, and 10-year-old Xavier, who's a big football fan. And we actually just welcomed our 4-month-old baby boy Mateo in May.
I've seen him on the Zooms. Cute baby.
Yeah, he's definitely. There's not a lot that makes him upset.
Okay,
he's happy all the time. He's just laughing and observing things. But he's getting very big, very fast. So it's crazy.
So, what's your what do you do in your free time? Like besides, so you write music, you play guitar, family man, like real estate. So what else is Jordyn interested in? I like to video game when I have time. Usually that's a late night thing because with all the kids, once everyone's asleep and I realize, oh, hey, I'm not completely tired yet. So I like to, I'll game late night on the weekends and sometimes I stream. So that's been another way to make a little bit extra money. You Xbox or PlayStation? Xbox. We do have everything. We have when the PlayStation 5 came out, I had to know what all the hoopla was about. So I bought one for my wife for Christmas and, bet she appreciated that. Yeah, very much so. She's played Sims maybe twice. Okay. So what other video games do you play? I play a little bit of competitive Call of Duty. And with my background in football, Madden is always a staple. Okay. I like to joke, that I've never been beat. Wow. Yeah. So it's I'm not the guy to beat you, but I like to look for a challenge. But then every once in a while, I do. My family members, my friends, even Xavier won't play me anymore. My dad, he comes over. I'm like, hey, you want to play a game? And he's like, no. Don't even. I'll play Xavier, but I don't want to play you. You play Mario Kart? We did have a Nintendo Switch, and we did play Mario Kart from time to time. But it's been a while since we broke that out. I'll have to break that out and. I could probably hang with you on that. Probably. Yeah. Probably. That's probably it, though. So what's your favorite thing about Michigan? The Upper Peninsula is hands down my favorite thing about Michigan. And the reason for that is
To me, it's amazing. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to biology and history. And just the fact that you can see, that it was carved by glaciers, the rock, all the different landscapes you can see up in the UP, to me is just amazing. That you go in Michigan, you can find sand dunes, you can find farmland, and you can find cliffs. The fact that you can go cliff diving in Michigan and drive 2 hours south and be in a flat farm is just cool to me.
Yeah. So have you been to Tequamanon, and have you been to Kitchikippi?
Yeah. I drag my family there. Every time I go, I don't go to the UP without making a stop. It's an amazing place.
So we actually just found a new similar type waterfall river that you can go in, a Keok. It's south of Sheboygan. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it was really cool, and not as far as Tequamanon. So next time you go up north, it's actually not across the bridge. It's, close to Sheboygan, which that's one thing I love about Michigan. We're always finding out new things. Yeah.
There's always some new adventure that no matter how long you've lived here, you had no clue existed.
Yeah. I mean, I like to say that I'm like pretty familiar with the surrounding areas around Grand Rapids, but somebody will mention a city and it won't be that far away. And I'll be like, I've never heard of that city. And it's, hour, 45 minutes from here. So there's just so many little towns and places to go. And that's why I love Michigan. But so yeah, one kind of final question, any funny real estate or interesting real estate stories you could share?
So I was showing a house. I have a client recently who had a back surgery, and showings have gotten kind of hairy. No pun intended. You'll see why here in a minute. And so she tells me, I had a couple really interested parties I wanted to get through a couple weekends ago. And she said, I'm in my room resting, but you can take, just try to make it an hour, try to squeeze these people through in an hour. So I'm like, okay. And even though, one of them had an agent, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be there just to help get you guys through kind of quickly, like a guided tour, because she's not feeling well. We're going to try to make this happen quickly. She's like, don't worry, the house is clean. The dog's put up. Everything's fine. I'm like, okay, cool. So I text her, let her know we're there. We go in, we start walking through. I don't see the dog. I don't hear the dog. I don't smell the dog. The kennel's empty. I'm like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, okay, there's no mess. I'm like, she must have sent it over to her brother's house. She talked about doing that before. Yeah. So I turn around and I'm showing them the kitchen, and the bathroom door's behind me and it's closed. And all of a sudden, this big, like 120-pound Labradoodle pushes the bathroom door open and like jumps on my back.
Were you scared?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was definitely scared, because her brother is also like 6'4" and very hairy. Yeah. And a Tennessee mountain man. And so I didn't know it was a dog at first. So I run across the kitchen, which I'm sure you can imagine me running across the kitchen, and turn around, and the dog's just like happy to see everybody. But like 2 out of the 3 families that I was showing the house were terrified of dogs, so they run for the door. And it was just it was not it was chaos. But it was pretty funny. They're like, because they asked me like, they asked me before we went in, are there any loose pets we need to know about? Is there? I'm like, no, we're all good. She said we're all set. Just for him to peekaboo out of the bathroom and attack, jump on my back. It was nuts.
That's Labradoodles aren't supposed to be scary. No. I have a golden doodle, and she barks at me sometimes when I come in the house, but I couldn't imagine her being scary. But if I didn't know her, maybe. But I could see that. One of my neighbors called her a wolf at one point.
I've never heard a low bark come from a dog like that. I guess that's what probably threw me off. Okay. Is, this thing had the bark of like a Rottweiler. Yeah. It was in my ear. And so I was like,
Yeah. I actually knew somebody that was bit by a dog doing a showing that they totally didn't know there was a dog in the house. So they can be sneaky. So I really appreciate you coming in today, Jordyn, and talking with us on the Small Talk podcast here. How could somebody get a hold of you?
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure for sure. If anyone that wants to, have a chat about real estate on the Lakeshore can call me at 231-259-4559 or email me at Jordyn, Jordyn at Smallegan, Smallegan realestate.com.
All right. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to the Small Talk podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. you.